With the booming success of the Sonic movie earlier last year, the market for video game movie adaptations has become apparent. More and more companies began buying out popular IPs to adapt them on the big screen. With last year's explosion in popularity for two indie games, they've become prime candidates for popular movie adaptations: Devolver Digital's Fall Guys and InnerSloth's Among Us, with both developing teams giving the thumbs up for their passion projects to be made into high-budget films. Set to release around the same time, which one would be the most successful in regards to reception from critics and general audiences alike, as well as in regards to making back more than its budget? 3, 2, 1, discuss. Both Fall Guys and Among Us are the perfect games to play with your friends while cooped up indoors, and I can definitely attest to this. However, from a financial standpoint and a critical standpoint, I believe the Jelly Bean Simulator will lend itself to a better movie overall. Both of these games are popular, but only one is getting more consistent updates to its base game. Among Us became popular 2 years after its creation, thanks to the Henry Stickmin Steam release. Fall Guys, since its conception, has been a big deal, with its launch being proof of its impact. Devolver Digital really knew how to publicize the game, giving out early access codes to popular streamers, so they know what they're doing when it comes to marketing. Even if Fall Guys has become a little less popular as of late, it still has a pretty large player base. Season 2 is sure to draw players back into the world of flying hammers and fruit shoots. The Fall Guys are known for their colorful and slapstick antics, competing in Takeshi's Castle and Wipeout style games. I'd imagine the Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout movie being something of an underdog story, following a singular Jelly Bean and his or her road to the Fall Guys championship and crown. The simplicity of the Jelly Beans lends them to being like the Minions. Love or hate them, they're popular to say the least. Seeing a sympathetic side to these guys would be endearing. Meanwhile, the crewmates of Among Us kill. Brutally. Snapping necks, slicing each other open, blowing each other's brains out, dumping each other into the vacuum of space, into pits of lava, you get the deal. Basically, they'll either have to axe all these concepts or aim for a higher movie rating when adapting Among Us. Let's say they do this though. Adult animated movies have a bad track record. Most adults unfortunately don't even bother with animated movies, and trust me, none of us would want to see a live-action Among Us either. That would annex any charm and whimsy the game has. I'd like to speak more on the nature of both games though. Fall Guys is very repetitive, but Among Us's experiences are pretty much based on who you play it with. The issue with this is, it's impossible for a movie studio to capture the essence of every Among Us game into one movie. If the movie takes itself too seriously, it would be polarizing to a more casual audience, and vice versa. They'd also have to create scenarios as to why the crewmates are in outer space, a liberty Fall Guys doesn't have. Tacking on lore to Among Us could potentially lead to the plot being convoluted, and even upsetting the fans of the game if done poorly. I'll say again, I think the best way to go about a Fall Guys movie is to have it be about the Takeshi's Castle style competition. Even if this is a little formulaic, as long as the titular character is endearing and it resonates with the right emotional beats, it should be successful from a critical standpoint too. And I already thoroughly believe the movie will be financially successful, with merchandise of the Jelly Bean plushies and t-shirts being abundant. We have our clear hero, and maybe a villain in a competing Fall Guy, but I think Among Us could very easily mess up when it comes to its characterization. If the movie goes the route of revealing who the imposter is off the bat, the suspense would be non-existent. If the imposter is subtly hinted, being too obvious or too vague will only confuse the audience. The murder mystery genre has to be perfected in order to be successful, which means they'll have to be hitting the brakes harder than Fall Guys if they make a wrong turn. Plus, this genre usually lends itself to heavier emotions anyway. Projecting these deep feelings onto characters who look like this is going to be a hard sell. So yeah, I'm fairly confident in the Beans grabbing the crown with a celebratory dance. I'd absolutely watch a movie on either of these games day one, but the Fall Guys movie I believe would be the one ending with the better reception. Let's hear from Biff though, else I'll probably end up calling an emergency meeting and seeing if he's an imposter or not.
Looks like I've just been sitting in the lobby for a while. I should probably start the game, huh? The Fall Guys have a cute, marketable design, yeah, but are you really going to try and tell me that Among Us doesn't have the same? InnerSloth are already making shirts and plushies of the crewmates, and I've seen plenty of fan works that manage to make the crewmates super expressive. If individuals on the internet can pull it off well, what's stopping a movie studio with an actual budget from doing the same? Also, I don't think comparing the Fall Guys to the Minions is in your best interest. I mean, that film made bank, don't get me wrong, but like, it's not exactly critically acclaimed. Even general audiences don't seem to like it. In fact, the idea of a Fall Guys movie is something I could definitely see being handed over to Illumination. Cutesy, inoffensive kiddie fluff that desperately tries to pander to kids by naming items Big Yeetus and Thick Bonkus without a hint of irony. Yeah, that's right up their alley. You brush off the idea of a serious murder mystery movie way too quickly. This isn't some YouTube video that audience members are just gonna click off if they're confused at any point. The people watching this have bought tickets and they're ready to spend the next few hours watching the film. People tend to only leave halfway through a movie and not come back when it's a special kind of awful, something I don't think this would be. For examples of widely beloved murder mysteries, let's take a look at Hot Fuzz and Knives Out, some of my favourite movies of all time. Both have overarching mysteries that the audience never knows the answer to. The entirety of Knives Out is focused on the mystery. They blatantly show the murder taking place and are still able to make the rest of it entertaining by having it focus on the detective solving the case and then blindsiding the audience with a twist in the end. Hot Fuzz still has a big focus on solving the mystery as well, but the reason it's so widely beloved is because of the comedy and character interactions, something a potential Among Us movie could also do really well. A lot of the fun of that game, for me at least, comes from interactions with friends during meetings. Both films also fit both of the criteria that Among Us needs to win here. They're both really highly critically acclaimed, and they both made bank at the box office. Knives Out came out in 2019 as well, so it's not like this is some long gone fad that people aren't gonna care about anymore. Though you are right in saying that adult animated films don't have a super great track record, with masterpieces like Anomalisa and the 2002 Adam Sandler hit 8 Crazy Nights not even making back their budget, but there are still exceptions to that. Both the South Park and Simpsons movies made tons of money, with the latter breaking into the top 10 highest grossing animated films ever made at the time of its release, and to this day is still the second highest grossing 2D animated film of all time. Probably because it is just that good, you know? So adult animated films can still perform well if based on an already popular franchise, which Among Us is. There's also Sausage Party, which is the highest grossing adult animated film of all time. Part of the reason that film was as popular as it was because of its gimmick of, it looks like a kid's film, but then the food says the fuck word, which Among Us could subvert expectations in a similar way and get a lot of notoriety for it. All of this though is under the impression that it needs to be an adult animated film, which it doesn't. The deaths in Among Us aren't gory at all. When the imposter shoots a crewmate, stabs them or snaps their neck, none of the death animations have even a drop of blood in them. Even when one of them gets dropped into lava, they aren't horrifically burned or anything, they just kinda sink below the surface. It's not like deaths are completely off limits for animated movies or anything like that. DreamWorks, Pixar, Disney, Sony, etc. have all put deaths in their movies way more brutal than anything in Among Us. So the film could still be marketed towards a younger audience as well. Among Us did have a slow rise to popularity, much slower than Fall Guys, I'll give you that, but like, what does that change exactly? It's still popular now, even more so than Fall Guys I'd say. In fact, it seems to be somewhat responsible for everyone jumping ship from Fall Guys in the first place. Both are still popular, but only one is still the same social media feed dominator that it was back in August. I think Fall Guys definitely has what it takes to make for a financially successful film, but Among Us has the marketability and charm to do the exact same, on top of the potential to have the movie actually be really highly critically acclaimed. I'm not going for a double kill though, so I'll report the body and let Brandon defend himself before we all vote him off.
Oh my god, okay. So, me and Biff, we wrote our debates for this last year, and a lot has happened since then. Episodes got changed around, and wow. This didn't exactly age particularly well. For Biff at least. I still think Fall Guys have this. You cite Fall Guys as this thing that hinges on ironic enjoyment, which in itself is ironic coming from either of us. However, times have changed. Among Us is practically the apotheosis of cringe culture. When the imposter is sus, red sus, the word sus itself, the waves of people with Among Us brain rot. Sure, that means all eyes are on the crewmates movie, but that means all the expectations and pressure are as well. If they want their movie to be taken seriously at all, they're gonna have to play up the violence. If these characters are treated comedically, there would be absolutely zero emotional weight behind their deaths. Again, the more tryhard they are at trying to make a murder mystery, the more potential pitfalls it could have. Going the kid-friendly route would only deter parents, who weirdly are less okay with movie violence than video game violence. Fall Guys could be an unlikely success story like the Sonic movie. The concept is easy enough for kids to grasp, but All that matters is that at the end of the day, it conveys a compelling story. Don't dismiss the concept so easily, because tell me, what is so riveting about fish gets lost, toys are real, kid goes to Undertale? Nothing. It literally just matters how you execute it. The underdog story, while tried and true, literally just needs the right writers behind it. Seriously, my favorite animated movie is about Legos. There's definitely enough to work with for a Fall Guys movie. Finding that tempo is going to be way easier for Team Fall Guys, whereas I see Team Among Us failing to write a script that appeals to everyone. Hardcore fans of the game, casual players, you even cite the magic behind Among Us being the interactions people have with others. They can't account for every single type of friend group. If they just try to hit general stereotypes, it's not going to feel as personal. Execution is key, and Fall Guys has enough industry connections to help them out wherever they falter. You've got the likes of Sonic the Hedgehog, Godzilla, and Team Fortress, who all know how to write character-driven stories, all of which have had skins in Fall Guys. There's also Mr. Beast. Among other content creators, movies like Ready Player One can garner a large day one audience just off the cameos, so why couldn't this movie? Conceptually, I don't see the Among Us movie playing out much differently than The Thing, and any better even, given again how oversaturated the crewmates are. If people are already sick of seeing a red object with an oval on it because of Among Us, do you really think people are gonna fork over $15 to watch a movie on that? Maybe it's more popular, but for the wrong reasons. Admittedly, I was less confident back then, but there's a lot going against Among Us now. Yes, this was an intentional delay, just a part of our plan to never let Biffweed win an episode. I'll let him finish his case though. All I'm saying is the crown is as good as mine.
Dear God, our openers have aged like a fine milk. Yeah, I must say I am quite looking forward to Fall Guys Season 2. Well, I guess that's what happens when you script your openers in October when your episode isn't set to come out until after March. Brandon defended himself well with some good counter-arguments, but not enough to stop him from looking kinda... Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't have it in me to use any more Among Us lingo in this episode. I think I might just die. My point was never that Fall Guys hinged on ironic enjoyment, just that the more memey humour that the game and its community have lend itself best, I use that word in air quotes, to Illumination's usual brand of comedy out of all the big animation studios. But honestly, it also has the same problem that Among Us has now, with how the social media managers have been tweeting about the names of obstacles and seasons, on top of things like trying to do the lol, the cute character's actually an eldritch horror thing that everyone's just sick of by now. I will admit, Among Us definitely has more negative reception now than it did at first. A lot of people are sick of Among Us jokes, but that's also a testament to the far greater staying power that Among Us has compared to Fall Guys, which, outside of the production of this episode, I have not heard a peep from in weeks, maybe even months. The game does still have an active player base, so I'm not going to go and say it's a dead game or anything, but it's still far smaller than it once was. And like I said in my openers, it's no longer the social media feed dominator that it was when it came out back in the summer. Among Us still won't get the fuck out of my Twitter feed. And while it's definitely for different reasons than it was before, the game still seems to have a far greater active player base. There are still streamers who play this game and rake in the views on Twitch and YouTube. The modding community is still thriving, the fanbase is still very much alive. So there are still a lot of fans of the game that are more likely to go and see the movie than with Fall Guys. And even outside of the fanbases, the absolutely unholy amount of Among Us memes and Twitter shitposts is likely to get a lot of people going to see the film for the sake of a bit. Like what a lot of people did for films like The Emoji Movie. I don't think the movie needs to account for every single type of friend group to strike a chord with people. As long as the banter between the crewmates and the sus poster is good, people are going to like it regardless of it not personally reflecting how they play the game. You think all these Among Us content creators who thrived for the latter end of 2020 just by playing this game got as popular as they did because so many people saw themselves in them? Or is it more likely that a lot of people just found their dynamics with their friends funny enough to stick around to watch more? An Among Us movie could totally just be seen as a worse version of The Thing, but I also don't necessarily think that's too much of a detriment. It is a very widely beloved horror classic. The movie doesn't need to jump a bar that high to succeed here. As long as the general critical reception is good, it doesn't need to be a masterpiece to win. And also I think a version of The Thing that parents can show their kids without traumatizing them is going to be something they'd probably be willing to pay for. Ironically enough, the big thing on my side right now is time, as if I needed another thing to not think about or say in this episode. You think the delay has benefited you due to Among Us being seen as cringe now, but the delay in this episode has only proven Among Us's far greater staying power, which has all but assured my victory. You argued well, Brandon, but when you get to the end screen, you're just going to see the word defeat spelled out in big red letters. Wait a minute, red? Like, as in red sus? Holy shit, is that a reference to Among
Well, you've heard our defenses, though they may still be outdated by the time this episode comes out.
I wish we'd seen that coming sooner. Then again, preparing our openers ahead of time has at least stopped them from being as cursed as they could have been.
Regardless, it's time for you all to decide who gets to appear on the victory screen wearing the crown. Leave your predictions in the comments. Just don't make them too cursed. Or do. I'm not sure where part 2 of this episode's gonna go.
Also, don't forget to vote on the poll, which itself was a reference to the voting system in Among Us all along. And join the Multiverse's Discord server via that link in the description. We unfortunately do not have a crewmate emote, but there is our hero, Sean, which I think is more than good enough to make up for it.
We'll be in the lobby while we wait for part 2 to come around. We'll see you then.
Holy shit, I just realised the Galaxy Grudge match template was Among Us this whole time. When the imposter is sus, when the imposter is sus, it's funny, when the imposter is sus, guys, the imposter is sus, when the imposter is sus.